Are you ready to say goodbye to your bank for good? Would you trust your money to a cryptocurrency? Join us today on Crypto for Christians when we talk about DeFi. Welcome to Crypto for Christians. Hi, Rick. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Alex. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I always love doing this show with you. And you know, last time we talked about getting our listeners into DeFi, and thought I would just talk about that today for folks who don't know what it is or have heard of it and are curious about it. DeFi stands for Decentralized Finance. And what this idea is that currently, if you're in the Western world, you probably keep your money in some kind of a bank. And you probably use a credit card that is connected to a bank. And that bank earns interest on your credit spending when you don't pay your statement on time. And the banks get very, very rich by managing your money. And that's called centralized finance. And sometimes in the crypto world, it's called the traditional banking system. And it's a system that works quite well, especially if you're a banker. So, you know, the nature of it is it's a for-profit business. The banks are more than happy to hold on to your money for you. When you deposit money at a bank, they'll lend it out to somebody else for a much higher interest rate than they'll ever pay you. And that's just the way the banking industry works. I don't want to sound like it's too negative. We use centralized banks to buy houses and get loans and student loans for our children's education and all sorts of other important services, which is why they're profitable, because they're creating value for the customer. Up until very recently, of course, banks were very necessary and very important parts of our economy. What's happening now with the blockchain revolution is that it is now no longer necessary to even have a bank. You don't need any company at all to hold your money. You can use cryptocurrencies for all of these purposes. And then there are computer programs called Defi Platforms that provide the full host of banking services. So when you think about just about anything you would want to do at a bank, store money, withdraw money, borrow money, invest money, all of this can be done on a DeFi platform where quite literally no single human being is in charge of anything that's happening. It all runs automatically on the blockchain. So our opening teaser, of course, is, are you ready to get rid of your bank? And I'm sure that many people are, you know, concerned about storing their money on a computer program. And that's with good reason. Most of us have had computers crash. Most of us have lost files on a computer and this kind of thing. And this is where the beauty of blockchain technology comes into play. As we've discussed in previous shows, the blockchain, first of all, is distributed. It is stored everywhere. It is decentralized. So even if half the computers in the world go down, your records on the DeFi platform will be preserved because they're stored on a blockchain. Similarly, with regard to security, will somebody steal my money? Well, the truth is that with a mature blockchain that has been well established and well built, the chances are effectively zero that someone could steal your money because your money is stored on the blockchain. It's an unalterable record of deposits and transfers and so on and so forth. Recently, there were some examples of some blockchain money thefts, and folks may have seen in the news certain extorters and terrorists and so on are getting things paid for in blockchain. But as it turns out, it's all traceable because the record is kept on the blockchain. So especially on an eventual basis, this will be a very secure way of storing money. Now, right now is probably when we should remind everyone that we're not financial advisors. I'll start talking about some specific programs now, but this is not financial advice. This is for educational and entertainment purposes only. But there are also opportunities for investing on blockchains. And a lot of times this is called yield farming. And this is very similar to putting money into a savings account and earning some interest on that savings account. What's amazing about these DeFi protocols is that they will do the shopping for you, and they will find crypto projects that need your money very badly, and it will invest it for you automatically and derive really some extraordinary yields. So these yields can range, if a savings account is going to pay you 1% or 2% at the most, probably not even 2%, a good DeFi platform can pay you 8% or 10% or even more. And so this is really worth looking into. And I certainly invite our viewers to research some of the well-established, secure DeFi platforms. These include platforms such as SushiSwap and PancakeSwap. And also very popular right now is Aave. That's AAVE. And there's another one called Curve. Both of these have been recently deployed on the Cardano blockchain. Everybody who watches this channel knows that we're big Cardano fans. And something else to understand about DeFi platforms is that they usually have their own cryptocurrency. And so this cryptocurrency is used as a mode of transfer from one form of asset to another. And these can also make for very interesting investments. So while you're storing your money on a DeFi platform and earning good interest on it, you might also get interested in purchasing some of the coins that make the DeFi platform work. Historically, they've been very good investments. And as DeFi becomes more popular and more widely adopted, it's likely that these things will go up in value. There are crypto credit cards that can be obtained. And there are also companies that take advantage of DeFi services and still serve as a centralized entity for people. And this might be a good place to start for some of our viewers. So these services are offered on crypto.com and also on in a company called BlockFi, which is probably one of the easiest ways to get involved with DeFi, is to start with a company like BlockFi and then learn to do it yourself. Now, the do-it-yourself DeFi is still a ways away. It's possible now, but I want to warn our listeners and viewers that it is a little bit difficult to get into. It'll take some time. There's a learning curve. You want to be aware of it. So it's probably easier. The easiest way is just to go to crypto.com or BlockFi. However, I do recommend researching Aave and Curve and figuring out how that would work. And if you have a little bit of courage and a little bit of money to spend, also participating in some of the DeFi services that are offered on those platforms. So this brings up the whole issue of commerce and spirituality. And Rick, this is something you and I have talked about a good bit. In fact, conversations we've had on this topic are one of the reasons we started this channel. And, I told you about a friend of mine that I have who's Christian, very good Christian, actually, a very, very good human being. But it's funny how he seems to separate his financial life from his spiritual life almost entirely. It's as if these are almost two different sides of himself, and there's no real communication between these two aspects of his life. And I know that you have some really interesting ideas about Christians in commerce. Could you share with us, your perspective of what a Christian can look out for when they're engaging in this kind of commerce?
Well, sure thing, Alex. Yeah, so it's interesting because cryptocurrency is such a new technology and it's so fascinating. Everything you were just talking to us about, I just find absolutely incredible. Did not know at all that we could actually, in essence, do without a bank at this point. And that's, I'm not, I know we've talked a lot, but we, sometimes you save things for the show, and I just hadn't even really heard that. So I just want to say that's really incredible. But one thing about commerce that we all have to understand is that there is a spiritual aspect to commerce. In fact, spirituality, I would say, is really at the heart of commerce. Now, when we think about commercial transactions, we transact in commerce. We trade things back and forth. And, we say, oh, well, this is worth this much to me and I'm willing to pay that. So I pay that price. And, it's fascinating because some people are willing to pay extraordinary amounts for things that, I would never even think of buying. Right. And we see that all the time. I'm just saying that so people understand. And so we all set a different value on the different things out there that are available for purchase. And the understanding with that is that currency at its basic level, anything we use for currency, whether it be gold or paper or digital, ones and zeros, floating around in the virtual world that we've created now, that they all represent a value. And we are the ones who actually give all of these things the value that they have. And that's what the marketplaces do. They set the price for these various commodities. In essence, currency is a commodity. Gold is a commodity. All these various things. And the price that is set for them, though, is in essence an illusion. It is not based necessarily in any real tangible fact. Now, of course, wheat and corn and all those kinds of things are commodities as well, certainly oil. And so prices get set for those too. But what's interesting is these prices can vary wildly from day to day and month to month. And you sort of ask yourself, well, did the actual value of that thing change that much?
Right.
Well, that's the question. Did it really change that much? And so, a lot of times, I'll just say it this way, if the price of gasoline goes up because the price of oil went up, then sometimes people will say, well, I'm going to choose not to drive. I'm not going to go, drive 100 miles to visit my relatives because it's just too expensive. And so the value that, or someone else would say, I cannot not see my relatives. I have to go visit them. So it doesn't matter what it costs. So you see, the value is something we each set for ourselves. We put the value on what we receive from those different goods. Now, of course, we all need to eat, and we all want to be able to feed the people around the world that are starving. And so we are, as Christians, are invested in the idea that certain commodities should be, remain at a price that, in essence, anyone can afford. And I think very many people understand this and agree with this. And that's a wonderful thing. And it's true. So the bottom line is that you have to recognize when you go into any commercial transaction, whatever you're buying, whether it be a house, a car, or a loaf of bread, you typically will ask yourself, is this worth it? Is this worth it to me? And you're setting the value. The vendor sets the price, but you look at that price and you will make a determination, well, no, I don't want to do that, or I just don't have that much available. I'm not going to do that, right? We shop in different stores based on the type of goods we're looking for. So what I want to also say is that we have to recognize that people who do well in business, who do amass great fortunes due to providing goods and services to other people, that is not there's no problem with that. There's no evil intention in it. They are just providing the things they're providing, and they're setting a price, and you are agreeing to pay that price. If you don't want that, if you don't want to pay that price, then you just don't pay it. And there's always a freedom of choice involved in that. And that's what's key. It's when choice is removed that then, we see danger signs, showing up right there, and flags being thrown up that we have to be careful, right? If you're mandated to do something that's going to cost you, it's just like in, the idea of insurance. If you want to drive an automobile, and you have to have insurance for it, and that's a good one, right? We've talked about order before, and the idea that we need certain things, and I have no problem with that. But again, you can shop around for the type of insurance you want. And some people like insurance that's going to cover them completely, and other ones want the bare bones minimum. So it's just, again, that's the way that works.
Well, it sounds like I'm sorry to interrupt, Rick, but it sounds like from your perspective, the element of freedom is important to the spiritual, the spiritual purity of the transaction. Is that, am I getting that right? Am I hearing you that the freedom of choice is somehow central to the spiritual nature of the transaction?
That's exactly it, Alex. The idea that we all have to, participate in the world and be able to move about freely and to be able to do what we want, to be able to see the people we want, to be able to enjoy different things. All of that is based on that freedom of choice. And so it's something that is inherent in that system. And again, like I was saying, just because someone else has been able to provide value to a greater number of people, and therefore they've, in essence, piled up a little bit more currency to themselves, that all that says is that the marketplace placed value on what they were offering. And so there's nothing inherently wrong about that. It just means that they met they were able to provide something to people that they wanted. And so that's a good thing. It's a great thing. We should all seek to do that. That's something that I did want to say was that, if you're looking at going out and, whether it's getting a job or starting a business, whatever you're going to do, the first question you have to ask yourself is, what value can I provide to that employer, or what value can I as a business owner provide to the marketplace that people will be willing to pay? And then when you can answer that question, then you will always do well, whether it's as an employee or as a business owner. You're going to be able to do well because you know that you are providing value. And that's one of the things that I think is, very concerning, is when people want to be paid and yet not provide value, or the value that they should, for what they're being paid. There's really no such thing as a free lunch, right? You need to be able to provide something for what you get.
Right. So this is very interesting. It sounds like you're even more of a free marketer than maybe I understood you to be, but it sounds like you're seeing morality in a free market. Am I hearing you correctly there, Rick?
Definitely, Alex. It's almost hard to overstate what you just said, is that there is a moral component to providing value to others. Right. We all need to eat. We'll just go with that one. And so we go out and we're blessed to live in the Western world. Typically, there's supermarkets or stores available. We can go out and we can purchase what it is we need to provide for our families and eat for ourselves. And that's a wonderful thing. And it's a very moral thing, because, it's just like when you see someone on the street and you can tell they're probably made some bad choices in their life, but for whatever reason, they may not be, they're not able to provide for themselves. Then, we as Christians have compassion on them, and we say, I'm going to turn around and give something to them, even if, we might think, oh, well, they might end up using it for some purpose we'd rather they didn't. We still want them, we have compassion for them, and we want them to be able to do well. And so that right there is how we can see that a transaction has a moral value. Because if I choose to give, whatever amount of money it is to someone who is less fortunate than I am, then I am giving them something that's going to provide for their life, and they're going to be able to, say, eat a meal, and have something to drink that they might not have gotten. And there is a definite moral value to that. It's just the way it is.
Now, would you suggest that each of us as Christians has the most responsibility to pursue value, to pursue the creation of value in our lives so that we can be in a position to give to others?
I also totally agree with that, Alex. That is exactly where I was going. The idea here is that we've been blessed with gifts from our Creator. We, and so many people, it doesn't really matter who you are or what your station in life is, where you live around the world, doesn't matter. We've all been blessed with a certain level of life and health and abilities. And, we see even people who are considered, paraplegic, they still have some amazing abilities. And then they can pursue those and provide value to the world. So no one is really exempt from this. There's no place where you can say, well, I don't have to provide value because I don't have enough. No, everyone who is alive and breathing has that blessing. And then we need to build on that. We need to take one step and, build on that. And God provides so much for us, and there's so much abundance in the entire world that you just have to look for it. You have to look for the value that's there and then be able to say, how can I add to it? How can I do something that's uniquely my way of providing value? And so when we do that, you'll never want for, you won't have to be supported by others, basically, when you can answer that question of how can I provide value. So it is a moral, I believe it is a moral duty of Christians to not only be able to, work and be able to provide for themselves and their family, but to be able to provide for others as well. And that's what we see in the understanding of giving, whether it's giving to your church or giving to someone you see on the street or giving to a charity that helps people around the world. It's all based on that. And the idea is that everyone receives value from a transaction. It's, typically, even the person who receives something, if it's done right, I think you've talked about this idea before, that if someone can say set up a cryptocurrency on a blockchain and be able to help somebody who say lives in Africa and doesn't have as much access to the resources like we do here in the West, but they can provide those, then that person will have an ability to take part in commerce. Say they'll be able to create their own small business and get started and to move forward. And we've seen that in other types of Kickstarter campaigns and other things, around the world. People will do things to be able to help other people around the world. And that's a wonderful thing. And that's exactly what we're talking about, is that commerce does not have to be viewed as a dog-eat-dog system where, one person wins and the other person loses. Now, to illustrate that, I'm going to just bring up a point. When I was a youngster in elementary school, the boys that I knew in the classes had these sticker books, and they would buy these, I guess it was gum or packages of gum, and it had all these different stickers in them of all these different football players. Now, I was not interested in this at all. I didn't have a book. I didn't buy the gum. I didn't have any of the stickers. But the various boys had these different stacks of stickers, and they were trying to each put all these fill their books. And I talked to the one boy, and he said, oh, well, he needs a certain sticker. Then I talked to another boy across the room, and he said, I've got, I said, do you have that sticker? He said, yeah, I have 3 of them. I've got plenty, and I don't want them. And he was ready to just basically throw them away. I said, well, let me give you a nickel for one. And I took that, and I took it across the room to my other friend, and he said, oh, that's the one I want. And I said, well, here, give me a quarter. And he was glad to pay the quarter for that sticker. So now in that entire scenario there, we all received value. We all got what we wanted. No one lost. And that's the way true commerce and works, where everyone receives value. And, no one forced anyone to do anything there. We all had the choice. The person who paid the quarter could have said, well, how about 20 cents? But he didn't. He gladly paid the quarter. I probably could have said 50 cents and he might have said sure. So, that's just the way it works, is that when we are transacting, if we're providing a good service, a good product, and then that has value to the person we're providing it to, then in essence, we're all blessed.
That's excellent, Rick. And maybe that was your first 5X and definitely not your last, you know?
There you go.
It occurs to me, all the markets out there, that right now, the crypto market is the freest. And I think that when people, come into the crypto community and start looking around at what happens out there, there's a very strong freedom ethic out there, and a very strong ethic that this is not going to be a very regulated market. The governments will try to regulate it, and they'll continue to, but at some point the technology will exceed the government's ability to regulate it. The other thing I loved hearing you talk about was just how commerce can benefit everyone in the world. And one of the reasons that we always like to bring up the Cardano blockchain is that it really does have that world vision. It really does want to contribute to the lives of people in Africa, Central America, as well as North America, all over the world. Really, really wonderful, potentially unifying force in these blockchain technologies that really are distributed throughout the world. So I really loved that discussion, Rick, and I'm so glad we had the chance to talk today. I look very much forward to our next discussion of developments in the blockchain world.
Sounds good, Alex. I look forward to it too.